Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday. This is Worldview 360. I'm Erika Robinson, and as you know, this is Dr. Lena Rodriguez from Tarot Down Under, and I
MAGA.
am an American, and you are Australian, Lena, and we are spanning the globe, looking at the world, and we have a bunch of people here. I want to thank you for coming, and would love to keep an eye on the dialogue. I might have to change glasses so that I can do that.
Yeah. And Annie says, the best hour of my week. Thank you so much.
That's sweet. And thank you to those of you who will be watching in replay. I don't want to forget you either. So
No.
really, really appreciate that too. So hi, Lena. How's your week been?
Howdy. Well, the week sort of got shot to Hades, didn't it, with the strikes, which we will come and talk about. But like things were going in a particular way, and then this all just descended.
Right.
So we have to digest that as best we can.
We have a lot to digest. We have an hour to chew on it all together before we all go off and digest separately.
Because we were just saying before we came on, I'm paraphrasing here, but what we're trying to do is take all these different and disparate aspects of what's going on in all our lives and looking for the common threads and stuff through it, because it is all connected. You know, we even as seasoned campaigners get distracted by the drama and the theatre of what's going on.
And that's of course intentional, right? To keep us
distracted. They're doing a great job with that.
Yeah. So everybody focus. Let's focus. So we thought we would start with talking about what do they love to call it? The Republicans called it that, and then the Democrats called it that. The autopsy, such an unfortunate word. the autopsy of the Texas race. So it is done and dusted as far as the Democrats are concerned, and I want to talk a little bit about that with you, Lena. Before we talk about the Democrats, I want to say a word about the Republicans. In my readings, I had always seen who's the incumbent? See, now I drew a blank.
Oh, yes.
The incumbent would win, but it turns out it's a runoff. There'll be a runoff between the current.
Is it Ken Paxton?
No, the runoff is Paxton and Cornyn, John Cornyn.
Yes, who's climbing.
Yes. So Cornyn has been there for a long time. He's not particularly well liked, but Paxton is the felon's friend. We'll just put it that way. He's all for the felon. So they have to have a runoff, and that's actually not a bad thing for. Who did we just say was his name again? Cornyn, because everybody was putting their money on Paxton. I didn't think it would be Paxton, but everybody had put their money on Paxton. Well, the felon has come out and said, "Well, I'm gonna put my money behind one of them, and whoever I don't put my money behind, I expect them to drop out." Now, I'm thinking that he's talking to and around Paxton. I think he's going to throw his support to John Cornyn. Paxton is a mess.
Oh, I see.
Ethical disaster. So is the felon, just saying. But I think that because Paxton didn't, leap up to the top.
Yes.
According to the felon, I'm sure he now qualifies as a loser. I think. And so that's why I think that the felon will go with Cornyn and expect Paxton to drop out. Paxton may well not drop out, though. That's the thing. And you know what? That's fine. Let them fight it out. Let them spend that money. That's not a problem. That's okay. Now let's talk about the other side. So for those of you who don't know, even those of you who do, there was a little kerfluffle with the Democratic side, courtesy of, let me say, courtesy of the Republicans. Originally, there had been a time prior to this election where you could just go to anywhere and vote. So this was a problem that happened in Dallas. Dallas is the main place where Crockett would have gotten votes from. Well, they changed the rules so that now you had to go to very specific places to cast your vote. Well, people didn't realize that. They were online waiting, and then they were told, you can't vote here. So a judge was consulted, and the judge said, oh, okay, not a problem. What we'll do is we'll just keep the polls open for 2 more hours. And then everybody who's in the wrong place can get to the right place and vote. Texas Supreme Court, friendly to the Republicans, said, hold on a minute. And they stayed that ruling, which meant that those votes and those voters ended up being disenfranchised. Their votes were not counted. Now, I'm not saying that if they were counted, she would have won. I'm saying somebody put the thumb on the scale. And what people need to bear in mind is what you said about things being connected. This was a little test run for what will happen moving forward in the primaries and in November. Yeah. So there's that. People have said about the 2 candidates, and the vote was pretty close.
Yeah.
They both have progressive platforms. But I heard people say they voted Tallarico because he has a softer way of communicating. I said to Lena before we went on live, that's just straight up racist. I'm just saying. They hate us because they can't be us. We are not Black women. We're not wallflowers. We say what we have to say, and we know how to use our words. Maybe because we come from the oral tradition of Africa way back, and it's epigenetically in our blood. I don't know what it is, but it is racist to say, well, they say the same things, but he's just gentler. They talk about the fact that he's religious. He has an MDiv. I have an MDiv too. But guess what? Jasmine Crockett's what we call in the Black church a church girl. She was raised in the church, and I have seen her pull out chapter and verse from the Bible when the occasion called for it. So I think, we are talking about Texas, just saying. And I hope Tallarico, who wants to do that sort of hand across the aisle thing, have a big tent, et cetera, et cetera. I hope, we need feisty. I agree. I hope that he and the party do not take the Black vote for granted, because it's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed. We are traditionally and historically, particularly Black women, who are known as, vote. They're the people who staff the polls. The Black women retirees. A lot of times, we are the ones who keep people, who make sure people get to the polls. Right? We campaign. We do all of that. We are taken for granted, and that would be an easy way to keep John Cornyn in his seat. Take us for granted. And I say us just because I'm Black. I am not, God knows, a Texan. So,
I think the Dems have to be really careful going forward for a range of reasons. This is one major obvious one, because it was so in the face, because everyone knows how extremely talented and committed Jasmine Crockett is. So her record speaks for itself.
Right.
Now, I'm sure Tallarico's pleasant and
he is. He's very pleasant, very young.
However, that's not the worst of the problems facing the Democrats now. It's what you say, taking all sorts of votes, particularly the Black vote, for granted, but also the Hispanic vote? Are people not going to turn out because of ICE, et cetera, in the midterm? So, in other words, the tent has shrunk on the Dems' watch, and this mealy mouth, being decent to everyone approach it might work in some places at some times, but it's not going to work on a national scale this year.
Not this year. Not this
They
year.
really have to nail their colours to the mast. They did the same thing with David Hogg because he was too out there
That's right.
for them.
That's right.
And respect to Nancy Pelosi's name and legacy in some direction, but I must say I was never a rabid Pelosi fan. I thought she was always too corporate for me. But this is still weighing down the Dems. The Dems should be flying out of the gates now.
You know what I heard someone say, and this was someone from Tallarico's campaign. He, of course, was thrilled last night, and what he said was, Tallarico is not all about the identity politics. Excuse me? Wait, what? So they use certain terms like identity politics. What does that mean? It means what is in the interests of Black people and brown people and gay people and disabled people. I mean, is that what they mean by identity politics? I think it is. So we're going to go for just the great, dull beige of it all. And that will not win the seat.
Yes. And as someone was saying in the comments, and we've talked about this too, Jasmine Crockett in the next incarnation would be brilliant as Attorney General. Mm-hmm. But unless the Dems grow up, smarten up, and get a spine, I can see the Dems going, oh, yeah, but she might be a bit too strident for Attorney General, right? And so they'll get another Merrick Garland who'll push papers around for 4 years till we all pass out in a coma.
Yes.
But they don't get it, that what people are desperate for is someone who has the fight in them.
Well, so that's the thing. People are desperate for a couple of things. And I think that the things people seem to be desperate for are at cross purposes. On the one hand, they are desperate literally for what you just said. Please, somebody stand up, speak truth to power, fight fire with fire, and straighten this mess out. But there is a whole swath of people who have just woken up to how bad things are, and they're looking around and they're just gobsmacked, and all they want to do is go back to sleep. Can't we all get along? Can't things be like they used to be? First of all, things were never the way they thought that they were. They never were what they used to be. They never were. That's the whole point. It seems like it's a toss-up for the party to decide which constituency are they going to listen to. Because you can't really
well, I think part of the problem is they invent their own constituency of what party strategists think voters will respond to. And let's hug the white line in the middle of the road. And they dare not, ruffle those feathers.
Right.
And this is... occasionally I watch, and I think everyone should dip into occasionally, is those GOP people who left Trump and the GOP early in this, whether it's Joe Scarborough or the different ones and the different podcasts. What they all have in common is they cannot believe how passive the Dems are, because they're used to GOP old school, punch them out and keep walking on every issue. And we have something to learn from them. By we, I just mean the voting public, because people aren't expecting mealy-mouthed, polite little Book of Mormon type responses to this.
Right.
It's not going to cut it.
It's not going to cut it. I mean, I know that Tallarico was backed by a lot of money. I don't think it was Republican money, but I think it was Democratic money. And when you are backed by big money, there are big expectations that they have for you. And those expectations may not be in alignment with the electorate. So I'm going to be watching him very, very carefully. Again, I have no vote. I have a platform, but I have no vote because I'm not a Texan. And I think anybody who is anybody should pay attention, because he certainly emailed me. No, he texted me last night to ask me for money, Tallarico. So, so if he wants my money, he has to come correct, as we say. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, so that's Texas. The next thing that happened today, and then we'll pull back and talk about the big thing, the big elephant, is that the Senate followed the example of the House and said, well, okay, I guess if he wants to have a war and play toy soldiers with real ones, who at least have died already, that's okay. He doesn't have to ask our permission. What in the world?
Talk about the white flag going up. This is what I don't understand about the Supreme Court, Congress, and the Senate. I mean, obviously, we dissect it a lot, but at the end of the day, they're doing themselves out of a job, out of a function, out of relevance.
Yes. Yes.
By giving all their power to the cretin and the people who are pulling the cretin strings.
Well, that's okay. So that's worth talking about, because I just brought the whole issue up because it is a shame and an embarrassment and a travesty of justice that the House and the Senate said carte blanche. Now, I will say Fetterman was one of the Democrats who, he hit his head or had that stroke or whatever happened to him. And I don't know. I don't know if he went to the other side, and I don't know what happened to him, but he's not.
Because I remember him maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I thought, oh, great, a firebrand's come out and he represents that macho masculinity, but with a brain, and we can do it differently. And I thought, great. And then he just did.
But it's a shame that they folded that way. If you want things to do, and we always want things to do, you don't want to just sit and hear us, chat about it. You need to contact your representatives, voice your opinion, whatever your opinion is, on this capitulation of giving him carte blanche to declare a war. I mean,
this is the end game. Tariffs were massive and still are, and destructive, and they're a war on the world in themselves. But this one, it's obvious for anyone with a working neuron to understand how damaging this is.
That's right. That's right. Well, I guess
this isn't working for anybody.
No. Well, and I lived in Texas during Ann Richardson. I know what happened in the dirty fight to get George W. elected. I remember Ann Richardson. She was great. I remember the debate when she said, he can't help it. He was born with a silver, what did she say? A silver boot in his mouth or something like that.
Right. Clever. Yeah.
She was great. Well, you mentioned people who have an interest in this war. I think that the felon is beleaguered, beset, benighted by the Epstein situation. And I think anything to distract it, he will go for. And I think that the people around him know that. And so they are now sort of cashing in chips. I think you have Russell Vogt helping, being in his ear so that our economy can be destroyed and jobs can be lost, because he's the Project 2025 guy. You have Stephen Miller, the immigration guy, in his ear about that. And then you have two people in his ear, one on each ear. And I don't know, did you see? Okay, the rash was, I'm just going to say, it was disgusting, right? On the side of his neck. But what interested me was not the rash. It was what was above the neck, which is the ear.
Wow.
There was nothing wrong with that ear. The best comment I heard somebody say was that they think that the rash was was an immunosuppressive reaction because the fake ear that they put on him transplanted is being rejected by his body. I mean, that's as good a thing as any.
Yeah, let's roll with that.
But because that ear looked, I mean, as far as any part of him could look, perfect. So anyway, I was going to say that he has two people in his ear in regard to Iran. One of them is Netanyahu, and we'll talk about him in a minute. And the other is Marco Rubio, who was against any of this until he was for any of it, and who is all about regime change in Cuba. So why don't we just sort of, I don't know what, grease the skids and have regime change every place else at the same time?
I know. It's actually gobsmacking, the sheer audacity of it at this stage in human history.
Yes.
The arrogance of the West, and most particularly the US, of just going, I don't like the head of that country, I don't like this one, we'll just change them. And failing to remember 5 minutes ago. We could go back to Vietnam, but the troops have only just been pulled out on Biden's watch from Afghanistan. So this repetitive cycle with no plan B.
Right. Well, Marco Rubio was the official reason for why we went in. Now, does this make sense to you all? Because it doesn't make sense to me and Lena. Okay. The excuse was that the felon was told by Netanyahu, who I guess had been at Mar-a-Lago, for the express purpose of informing the felon, that he was going to attack Iran. So we decided that, well, if Israel all by itself attacks Iran, Iran will be mad at us and will attack our bases in the region. So to avoid that, we're going to attack Iran with Israel. That makes no sense. Think of it in a schoolyard context. You're going to beat somebody up. So you try to enlist somebody to beat you, to go with you, that has no beef with you.
Or the other person.
Right, or the other person. But now, since the two of you went to beat him up, now he and his posse are going to come for you. You weren't even in it until you put yourself in it. So what's that about?
Yes. And weirdly, despite Marco Rubio saying we were worried they were going to retaliate or something, it's obvious that the administration, i.e. Hegseth, the satanic Ken doll, as I call him on my channel.
It's terrible.
Didn't make any preparations for reprisals.
No.
Right, from Plan B. So Iran has hit who they consider to be US allies in the region. So it's been this splayed response that no one was actually ready for.
No.
It would appear.
The felon had a plan. I thought he had a great plan. The felon said, so, we're going to go in there and we're going to whatever. And then you people of Iran, you get it together and fix it all up and pick a good leader. That was his plan.
Yeah, exactly. And it even fools people when it's said quickly. Evil regime, we get rid of monster, you rise up to freedom. Okay, it's this Sesame Street geopolitic.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because all repressive regimes, by definition, repress the opposition. So people are either killed or exiled or silenced or, whatever. So there isn't a working option to step seamlessly into the shoes.
No, there isn't.
So what Iran is looking at now is, as we speak, the Ayatollah's son, who is apparently worse, is notionally running the country.
And I'm sure he's not thrilled that his father was killed.
Well,
I mean, I'm sure, wouldn't that sort of frost any of our butts if our dad was killed?
Look, exactly. That's not pretty. And then the alternative to that is American intervention bringing back the Shah's son. Do we see a pattern here? Do we see a pattern? The nepotism of this primitive, old school way of looking at the world.
I know. But that's how the felon does look at it. I mean, he would certainly remember the days of the Shah and his wife and how they lived when it was Persia, and then them having to be exiled to Paris. I mean, has this young man, I think he was raised in Paris.
Probably. Yeah.
Well, okay, good luck with that. I mean, it's not going to, it's a bad.
Well, exactly. But it's like Venezuela taking out Maduro, which was very weird the way that happened. But anyway, take out Maduro and leave his whole cabinet in place.
Right.
What? Pardon?
Right. Somebody said that the Ayatollah's son's wife and child were also killed. So, I mean, friends.
Oh my God.
So Khomeini had a son, the son had a wife, and then they had a child.
Got it.
They were killed as well. So, I mean, you can't even just mind your own business, live your life without World War III now breaking out. People are concerned as to whether or not it's World War III. I mean, it certainly is heating up in that part of the world because, as you say, other countries are now involved, being attacked.
Well, not only a whole long list of other countries that are involved, Iran has no choice strategically but to get the West where it hurts by shutting the Straits of Hormuz. And so we are all affected because the oil can't flow.
I don't know if you all have noticed yet, if you're in the States, because we noticed that here in California, the price of oil, gas for your car has shot up already.
Yeah, and this is day 3 or 4 or something, so you can imagine. This is, in fact, price gouging in anticipation. So this is only the first flush.
Oh, good. Yeah, you're right.
Of the rises, right? It hasn't hit yet. This is just people taking advantage. So the real pain is yet to come for all of us. And that raises a bigger issue in the sense of, had we, meaning whoever in the world, was committed enough to true climate change adaptation and gone on to thermo, solar, wind, etc., we would not be at the mercy of these events. These events may not be occurring because there's no mileage to be gained. But we missed that 40-year thing by US, Canada, UK, Australia.
Yeah.
And so we're all at the mercy of what happens to the fossil fuel industry.
Right.
It's ludicrous.
Well, and also
we could all be independent of that and be paying little tiny utility bills.
Well, didn't the felon say he was going to bring down the price of gas? I mean, think of the promises that he's
made. This is the sort of thing, though. It sounds simplistic, but I actually think it's those sort of things that actually turn people against him.
Absolutely.
Not big ideological things like my gas has gone up again and again since he was in, is what will turn people.
And people are turned. I mean, we see, because of this war, a huge split in MAGA.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. They can cannibalize each other.
I think too, MAGA's running out of road. So people splinter away for different reasons, which they may or may not admit to.
Right.
Okay. So some MAGA women might peel off because they've now seen, they've had to drive their sister across the border to get a termination or whatever.
Yeah.
And different ones peeling off for different things. People lose the jobs and their whole family loses a series of jobs. People peel off. So it's getting smaller and smaller, but they're still loud.
Right.
And Congress and the Senate are still responding to this mythical MAGA scary voter.
Yes.
They're not picking up their opportunity to take things forward.
I agree.
They're giving them more power than they actually have.
It's, I'll tell you, I think part of the felon's thinking, or maybe the people around him's thinking, is we know that he's a lame duck.
Yes.
And sort of a dying fossil. So there was that. But if he can be a wartime president, the hope is people will rally around him. Because what is that?
That's a worn out trope.
That's what I absolutely agree. It's worn out.
That traditionally was the deal, right? From the First World War until maybe 10 years ago. That was a truism. All you needed as a dying leader was to get a good war on and people would rally, right? Plus, your very best friends are going to make huge amounts of money because they're arms dealers.
Right.
Industrial military producers. But those days have gone. I think whoever invented the term forever wars, it was a really smart cliche in that sense, because people instinctively are over forever wars.
Right.
The problem is, as I see it as an outsider to this, is there's still this disconnect in the US. So if you asked, a cross-section of Americans on the street, do you support another long war? 98% of them are going to go no, if they were asked it in that way.
Yeah, in that way.
But they're not asked it in that way. They're told this is because of this, and we're just doing this, and we're going to be out by next Wednesday.
That's why
that's the problem.
I saw a statistic on the news today, which explains, it makes your case. Instead of it being 98% saying, what are you doing? Get out of there. The split is something like 60-40.
Yeah.
What is wrong with these 40%? Because it's literally what you said. They're being told certain things. It's going to be an in and out operation. We had to do it. Israel's our friend, whatever the reason that they were given. And they believed it. The question will really be, what happens when there is no more felon? Because he's the figurehead there. Who else will hold that up? Ideally, it'll just have crumbled before we're at that point. But is anybody thinking about that? Because it's not going to be Vance.
Yes, exactly. Vance just doesn't have the charisma to pull off these atrocities, right?
No.
So who will let us know in the comments if you have a theory on who it'll be, or will they feel someone fresh in 2028 to try and save their sorry asses? Yeah.
Now, I just see a Canadian here, and I have to listen. I love Canada. I love Canadians. I say it every other broadcast, and I'm very impressed with Carney. But why did he support the felon's move in Iran?
Okay, and Canadians can get back to us on this. Just two things. If I could briefly double back when you said Canadian here, she's saying she's seen Tallarico speak up in Texas and thought he was really brilliant at it. Just speaking for myself, not for Erika, I agree Tallarico has a role too. I think we were complaining about how Jasmine Crockett was systematically undermined by having her seat taken, etc.
Right, exactly.
He has a role to play, and if he can convert one, let alone 1 million GOP voters, more power to his elbow. If he goes on Joe Rogan and sways an audience, it's only good news. So I'd just like to clear that up.
Good.
But then Mark Carney. So our Prime Minister, Albanese, known to one and all as Albo. So in the rest of the world, you only have to remember it's like elbow, only it's
Right.
Albo. Yeah, we support the United States. Appalling.
Albanese did too?
He did. He did. And we all jumped in going, don't speak for us, Albo. What are you thinking? And then the next day, Carney did it. And that was even more devastating because Carney has been through such an extraordinary time.
Yes.
My impression from my Canadian viewers is people were shocked, surprised, and disappointed that he said it.
That's what my viewers seem to be too.
Yes, yeah. That's A. B is now they are both, Albo and Carney, backpedaling, and they're talking about, the need for more diplomatic advances. And no, now in the UK,
Keir Starmer, what did he do?
Keir Starmer. Don't start me on Keir Starmer, the worst Prime Minister, and he won't even make his term out. But he got one thing right. He stood up and said very clearly, very cleanly, we do not support these illegal airstrikes.
Good for him.
And that's all he said. That's all he said. But how clever. He just pushed it back into the crutch of where it belongs.
That's right.
Why didn't Albo, why didn't Carney do that thing? I don't understand.
I don't know. I mean, I get so tempted to just say, this is the dark arts. This is all power of evil in the world. You know what I mean? Because we try to come up with a rational explanation, and
no, you can't.
Yeah.
And because the US is now an unreliable ally, if not an out-and-out threat to the world, there's no need to pretend. They could have hidden behind what I call poly-speak, the weasel words. Oh, look, we're hoping for a breakthrough and our hearts are with the people of Iran and we hope this won't go on very long, or weasel. No. And the kicker, particularly for Albo, Trump wouldn't even know he'd spoken.
I don't know. Now we have a viewer, because this is on my list, viewer, so you'll be happy to hear that. The viewer says they're claiming Trump's the Messiah, bringing on the return of Christ. Yes. So apparently some portion of the military were given a speech, and in the speech they were told, don't be afraid. This is essentially a holy war, and it will bring about the second coming of the Messiah. It's in the book of Revelation, and Trump is playing his role. This is what he's supposed to do. Now, where is that coming from? I mean, all of a sudden. It's not all of a sudden is the problem. You may have been, viewers may have been wondering, why does there seem to be this affinity between Christian nationalism and Israel, the state of Israel? Because, I mean, one's Christian, one's Jewish. I mean, it's good to get along. That's great. But why is there this particular affinity? For example, Turning Point USA, that Christo-nationalist organization, one of their biggest donors is Israel. Now, why would that be? Any thoughts?
Well, I think there's two strands to the story.
Okay.
You've got many, let's say, I've got to be careful with how I break up the Christian community, because I think the white nationalist thing
that's what we're talking about.
Is what we're talking about. There are others who are old-fashioned, just anti-Semitic. They don't know or trust anything about that. So their racism trumps their religious belief. This, because it's literally biblical, see this affinity, because let's go to anthropology for a minute. The human brain tries to make sense of things that are too big for the human brain to actually make sense of. And one of those is religions. And then within each religion, you have different strands that are characterized by emphasizing this over that, over that. So they're perfect bedfellows in the sense they can pluck 4 lines out of the Bible and say, well, therefore, you know, we are on the side of right and this is a holy war. The major problem which we've had since Trump drew breath was separation of church and state.
Yeah, what happened to that? That's right. That's a problem. But that's what they do not want.
Actually say it to serving truth.
It's horrifying. It is horrifying.
It was like a feel-good speech from Game of Thrones with some warlord about to take over somewhere. It was as disconnected as that, and I think it is illegal. Actually, I think a couple of
Lena, look, every other thing that he does is illegal. Is the point?
Yes,
but he does it anyway.
And the guardrails have fallen. We've watched them fall over and over. And then during the Biden administration, we're all smart after the event, but what was definitely obvious was voting for the teddy bear at a time, and so nothing was resolved, tied up, finished. There were no
well, he didn't expand the court. I mean, there were a lot of he didn't push Merrick Garland to,
Yeah, Merrick Garland should have been given 9 months, 10 months to get his feet and, weed out things and then gone. Yeah. So the Mr. Nice Guy approach was part of the failure. And unless we can all be honest and talk about the Dems' problems, limitations, and lack of foresight, things won't really progress.
No, they won't.
We've got to be critical.
Well, that's why I hope Tariffs will take a leaf out of the Crockett playbook, although I'm not holding my breath.
I think very different stylistically.
And that's fine. That's fine.
Absolutely fine.
I mean, I think he has the support of the old guard because he wants to hands across the aisle. He wants a kinder, gentler, whatever. I mean, I am all for kind and gentle too, but I just feel like it's a Band-Aid over a big festering wound, not unlike that thing we saw on the
exactly. Not at any price. Not at
any price. No. No, that's right. It needs to be cut open, cauterized, examined, dissected, and then you can sew it up and put a bandage on it. But you know what? I feel like we are really at a crossroads. There's a lot of people who do understand that and are ready for it. But I feel like there's an equal number of people who say, that's just too hard. Let's just pretend that we're back the way things were.
It is because to a certain extent, there's a lot of blame to go round when we look at any of this stuff.
Right.
And part of it is people's indifference to politics when things are ticking over, let's say, at best, when they're ticking over, not looking under the carpet for the uglies. And so is that a human trait, or is it because people are exhausted working 2 jobs and don't have a thing? Is it the fault of the education system?
Well, that's a good point too. That's a very good point. But you know what? Think about it. Let's get back to the common denominator in everything, Epstein.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, having read and I haven't read a tenth of what some people have read, but I've read the synopses of what they have said. The human mind cannot conceive of things worse than what is in the Epstein files. And I mean,
Mm.
so we have this, I mean, I hate to use the word, this opportunity to see, to see how bad things really are when we don't pay attention, when we don't believe women, when we don't believe children,
Yeah,
when
that's
we
where I was
everybody
going with
just
all
get
this.
along. This is what happens. We have this opportunity to see how horrible it is. The problem is, I pray I'm wrong, but there is this human tendency to say, "Oh, I can't. Okay, that's enough. I can't look at that. That
Mm,
can't really be true. Surely
mm,
that's not true. I'm going to
mm,
just say it's not true. Keep it moving."
mm,
This is what he hopes will happen.
mm.
Everything is a distraction. But I did notice, now we've moved to Epstein, that there were Republican senators who said, "No, excuse me, I want to see the pages that you took out, whatever your name is, Blondie.
The unredacted version.
Yeah, I want to see that unredacted version
Mm,
where Trump is in all those pages that you took out. That's what I
mm,
want to see." So I don't know if you heard, but she will be subpoenaed to come before the committee. Now, this committee is the investigative committee, not the committee that she has to go to every year and talk about what the DOJ's done. This one
mm.
is specifically geared towards the Epstein situation.
This is
She
Pam Bondi you're
and
talking.
Bondi.
Yeah.
She will probably refuse to come,
Mm,
at which point we'll have our next test. What will be our next test? Well, if you or I, well, if I, you're not an American, but if I was subpoenaed and told to come, if I said, "Well, I'm not coming," they would come and get me
yeah.
and they
Yeah.
would put me in jail. And
Mm,
sure, I could plead the fifth, but if they gave me some sort of immunity and said, "You're not going to get in trouble for anything you say, so now you can't plead the fifth," if I still didn't talk, I'd be sitting in jail.
mm,
What is true for me, technically under the law, but when did that ever matter, is
mm.
true for her. She must talk. She
But
must.
look at that last debacle that was her testimony. It was disgusting. It was depraved. It was theatrical in the worst possible way.
Then she can go to
So,
jail.
yeah, but for how long? 5 minutes, right? So that also she won't go to jail because she is the DOJ, and courts don't have real power. They are supposed to, if, like you say, if you refuse, they then, as I understand the system, get a DOJ to send the sheriff to
No,
arrest
you're right,
Erika.
because what they said was that that they were going to give it to Todd Blanche. Well, Todd Blanche serves under her. So
Yeah.
see, this is, but you know what's good? I mean, this is disgusting. It's horrible. It's depressing. But what is really good is that we're seeing all of the flaws in the system.
Yes. Yes. And that's
So
so important
it's
because
so
it was
important.
always a myth that no one is above the law.
Right, right,
People love the sound of it and it sounds really good. It was never the case,
right. No,
right?
right.
Rich people don't have the same justice that
Right.
poor
And so
people
we
have.
have to decide whether we're good with that. And are we good with the world knowing that about us? Because
Mm.
part of our cachet in the world, right, was this great system that we'd come up with, the land of the free, the home of the brave. Now, somebody said Nixon's attorney general went to jail. I
Yeah,
know, but why? Okay, so why did Nixon's attorney general go to jail?
because the DOJ itself was still functioning as a DOJ.
Exactly. And
It
now it's not.
wasn't it wasn't as degraded and eroded as this
Exactly.
current workshop for psychopaths
Let's throw
is.
another country in here because I did want to mention them, and which is, and I'm so happy. Spain.
Yeah,
Spain said, "You're not," because apparently we have arsenal in Spain,
mm,
and so Spain said, "Well, we're not giving you arsenal to go bomb countries. We're not doing that."
mm.
And the fellas said, "Well, we're going to come."
I know.
Anyway, we're going to get it. Okay, so now we're branching over to Europe. I mean, whatever spell some people seem to be under, and I will admit it seems to be fewer people than it was, which is great. This spell needs to break quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Yes, exactly. And I think it is between now and the midterms, and we've got to keep praying there will be a midterms and it will go in the right direction. Yes, people have to wake up, but also demand more of their lawmakers, one by one, by one, by one, everywhere they are.
That's right.
Because the lawmakers themselves are just, oh, when's the vacation coming? Oh, we're off again. I mean, the Congress is currently not in session again, or whatever. People have to stay engaged with politics and insist on higher standards. And historically, cyclically, we're due for a pendulum swing.
Yeah.
From peak capitalism and rogue capitalism and the richest guy wins, it has to swing back to people saying we want better working conditions across the board in the US, because the working conditions in that country are terrible.
Working conditions. And then I saw somebody said, the people who were injured by Iran in Israel went to the hospital in Israel, had their injuries treated, and came out as with as much money in their pocket as they went in with. Meanwhile, in the US, you can go bankrupt from an ambulance ride, and we are giving Israel $58 billion. What?
But it's like, you can't make the direct comparison until there's a change of mindset, in the sense of it's like the 40 billion he gave Malay or something, right? And the point you're making, 58, but if you actually count up the billions. But even if neither of those things occurred, that money would not be going into the American health system for the people.
No, and
that's my point.
You are absolutely right about that. There is no, well, you know what? That brings up, and we're short on time, but tariffs. I want to say a word on tariffs. As people keep pointing out, okay, so the Supreme Court said, yeah, no, you can't do that with tariffs, so give the money back. And he's losing his mind. He's losing his mind. And people are saying, wait, why are you losing your mind? Because it's not like the money has been dispersed anywhere. So isn't it sitting in the bank? And all you have to do is go to the bank and get the money out and give it back. I think allegedly, entertainment purposes only, that money is in some offshore account someplace under his name. That's what I think.
And not just him.
No, not just him.
Yeah. The cabal.
Yeah. That's going to come out too.
There's that.
Stuff, somebody said.
But also he'll do what he's always done, which is challenge that decision. So there goes another 2 years with one reimbursed.
That's right.
And also it's like the farmer subsidies. We sort of think, oh, the poor soybean farmer who was forced to vote for Trump 3 times. We won't go there. But, you feel for the individual who's suffering.
Right.
When they get their bailouts, it doesn't go to the soybean farmer. Of course, it goes to the banking institution that the farmer owes.
Right.
And it's the same with tariff reimbursements, even though nothing will happen for years and then it'll percolate through. It won't go back to the individuals who paid more for the soda. It will go to the business or their lender.
I mean, I hope these are what we hope people are getting mad about this and saying there are many other countries around the world that do these things way better than we do in terms of healthcare, in terms of job security, in terms of not connecting your job to your health care. I mean,
Yeah. Why should your boss pay your health care?
No, maybe we'll do this, unless the world
Sincerely.
goes crazier, which it very well could. We talked about this, that I think it would be great to have Lena do a breakdown of how the health system works in Australia, because I suspect if Americans really heard the nuts and bolts of how it works, they would be shocked, amazed, and horrified that we do it the way we do it. So we'll one of our episodes will be about that.
Yeah, we must do it, because it is important. Because I'd go as far as to say, if you don't have universal health care, you are not a free country.
No, you're not.
I think it's that important, because you are at the mercy of a health event.
Yes. Yes. But you get, like I said, you can be bankrupted by an ambulance ride.
And leading cause of bankruptcy in the States, medical debt.
Yes.
Yes. Insane. So we must focus on that.
Well, and then, like here, so somebody will have some catastrophic thing happen, and then there'll be a GoFundMe, and everybody will donate to it, and then people will talk about, isn't it great that all these people donated? But it shouldn't have to be that way, is the point.
No, and the GoFundMe then could be used for something else, because as a citizen of any country, you should be entitled to healthcare. That's why people pay taxes. Hello.
Well,
to have healthcare,
it's what's in our documents: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You don't have any of that if you have to pay through the nose in the way that we do for healthcare, and it's still not enough. I don't know. Well, we have spanned the world. Again, 360.
But just before we go, let's have a little conversation, because we're very blessed with our viewers. You guys are all smart, compassionate people. So I'd just like to take a minute to talk about what you can do for resistance.
Okay.
Let's just talk about that for a minute.
All right. We know that we have the next No Kings March coming up. It's supposed to be huge, and that will be on the 28th of March. So it's important to be aware of that. What is this? Oh, I asked for donations a month ago when my spouse had open heart surgery and got 0 donations. Well, I mean, I'm sorry about that. And that's tough. People are strapped, and you shouldn't have had to ask for donations, is the point that we're making, I think. I think contacting your representatives every damn day, whether you write them, whether you call them, I think that that's really, really important. I think, they always say, think globally, act locally. Contributing to your local food bank, I think, is really important. There's a lot of ways that participating in campaigns, because now we are officially in primary season. So if there are candidates that you feel strongly about, or candidates that you feel you want to have input in what their platform is all about, get involved in some of the zillions of campaigns. They would love to have volunteers, and they'd love to have input in terms of their platforms.
Yes, and I'd endorse all of that. So pick an organization or a cause that you feel passionately about, and see how your skill set fits
matches theirs. Yes.
So you can see you giving 4 hours of your time and skill a week, or a month for that matter, can make a real difference.
Right.
So to do it. And the other thing, I think, because we're all softies for animals, is to your food bank, if you've got any discretionary income left over, pet food and things for animals is really appreciated.
Absolutely. So people are agreeing and talking about the protest that's coming up, and protesting healthcare and all of that. But there's a lot that we can do. And I also think just talking about things. I mean, I don't know. I'm Black, so we talk about things. I think it's really important that people talk about hard things. It's okay. You're not going to die. Get together with your neighbors, share your opinions, hash things out. You never know. You can start out being on opposite sides of the fence, and so one or the other of you can, give somebody a revelation. So I just think it's really important to talk to each other. This is good. Thank God we have these kinds of forums. The internet is wonderful for that, but in person as well. Talk to your neighbor that you noticed that all of a sudden their Trump flag's not there anymore. invite them to the cookout.
Yes. And back to the viewer, crafting and conjuring. Look, I do feel for you. You're the sole caregiver for a very ill husband. So we'll just put the word out there. If anyone has any way of helping crafting, who is herself a veteran, let us know or respond here in the comments when this video goes on YouTube.
Speaking of crafting, this is good. Craftivism, if you're into crafting. So, knitting hats for preemies, or for people who are going to be out demonstrating in the cold. There's a lot of things that we can do. But think about what your skill set is. I think that's important. And then match your skill set with what's available. We take care of a cat rescue. Yeah. Because the worst thing in the world that you want to do is feel hopeless and helpless.
Yes, then they've won. They've sapped your soul and they've left the building.
Right.
So it's really important to affirm your identity and affirm your beliefs by taking an action.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you all for being here. We hope that you've enjoyed being with us. I know these are, well, I say enjoy. I don't know if enjoy is the word, but it's good to be in community. It's good to talk about these things. It's good to sort of remember that we live in a bigger world, those of us who are in the United States, than just the United States. But it's also important to know that the world is watching us, and how we, how we navigate this awful situation. They're watching us. And, as I said to you, Lena, a while ago, I think it's great that people are saying, we know that there's a difference between Americans and their government. We need to make sure that people see that difference,
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you all for coming. And this will be up shortly, like in a couple of minutes, on both of our channels. So if you want to rewatch it, you can do that. And we will be here again next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, which is 9 p.m. Eastern. The rest of you figure it out, because that's as much as I can do.
It's too hard.
But thank you all so much for being here and for participating in the chat. I did put my reading glasses on, so it's been good to read through. People are really engaged, and we appreciate that. Again, Dr. Lena is Tarot Down Under.
You'll find me.
Yeah, and I'm in the company of cards. So we will see you on our respective channels, and we'll see you here again next week. So thanks a lot, you all. Bye-bye.
Cheers, everybody.